So now it's better. Well, however, I have a voice that's reach the end of the room. So I'm very happy to present you to the audience through your speaker this afternoon, introducing speech with the learning through play, myth or reality. I'm really looking forward to see what you're going to say to us and present to us because it's very interesting. Thanks a lot. Talks is yours.
Thank you very much for your nice introduction and good afternoon to everyone. I am Eric Sanchez. I am professor at the University of Geneva, and my research work concerned game-based learning in museum and learning game design and the teacher's role as game master as well. The question that I want to address this afternoon is learning through play, myth or reality. I want to talk about the reality of learning when it comes to play, and this is something that is not so easy to say at the moment. I think this talk is based. Sorry, I want to change it. Oh, yes, it was. This talk is based on a recent book that I published in last October. I wrote this book with my colleague Margarida Romero from the University of Nice. And in this book, we addressed 9 myths about game-based learning. And today I will address four of them. The first one is about game-based learning is a brand new idea. This is something that I still hear from practitioners, from teachers, or sometimes from researchers. But what we can say at the moment is that we know from the works that was carried out by some colleagues from the University in Fribourg in Switzerland that we have many paintings. I think it's almost 50 that was found on many Greek vases. And this painting represents 2 warriors. They are Achilles and Ajax. And Achilles and Ajax are in their tent during the Trojan War. They are supposed to make a war. They are supposed to be in the battle, but what they do is playing. They play a game, and the name of the game is the game, the 5 lines game. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. The 5 lines game. My colleagues from the University of Fribourg, Véronique Dazen, interprets this painting, and she said that despite she said that the ancient Greece, in the ancient Greece, gaming was really important, and there were two reasons for playing gaming during the ancient Greece. The first reason was about to develop the strategic skill, and it's really important for a warrior to develop his strategic skills. And the second reason was that the warriors want to call Athena, the goddess of war. It's important to play, and it's a way to call Athena the goddess of war. It means that in the Greek antiquity, playing was considered to be extremely serious, and it was connected to learning. And this idea is also supported by the fact that in the Greek language, school and games have the same root. The same roots is paideia. And in Latin, ludus means both school or play. So now we tend to separate work and game. We separate serious and game, but in the antiquity, it was not the case at all. In this culture, this idea that play should be separated when opposed to work or serious just emerged during when the Christianity developed. So it's an invention of Christianity to separate game and play and serious and work. However, Christianity is not totally opposed to game-based learning. For example, this game was played in the early 20th century, and it's a goose game, and it was played in the Catholic schools in France. And for this game, when the player moves his pawn, there is a risk to fall in a cell of the game board, which is a cardinal sin. And if you fall in the cardinal sin, so you have to wait or you have to go back. And if you avoid the cardinal sin, it means that you will manage to go to the end of the game, and the end of the game is paradise. So if you avoid cardinal sin, you will enter paradise. So the game is intended to teach young people some basic knowledge about the Catholic religion. So I think it's one of the first serious games that I know from school in France or Switzerland. Of course, something happened with the development of ICT, and since almost 30 years now, with the development of digital technology and the internet, we are now able to develop learning games that are used to teach medical emergency, banking, trading, or computing. But I'm sure that you know this kind of game, and it's not necessary to convince you that there are many games that are used that use ICT to in my team, we have developed a wide diversity of games who are dedicated to educational purposes. For example, some members of my team developed a recent escape game dedicated to train pre-service teachers the use of ICT in school or at university. I will go back to this game later on. So the first bit is about game-based learning is a brand new idea. Of course, it's a myth, and it means it's not a brand new idea at all. Game-based learning was already used some thousand years ago, and what is due is that digital technologies offer new opportunities for game-based learning, and that more and more people are interested in game-based learning. The second myth that I want to address is learning games are considered to be educational tricks. Most people that learning games and gamification have the power to motivate students to learn and to trick students, to help students to think that it's not an exercise, a school exercise, but a game. Again, this idea is not new at all. It has been put forward by Erasmus. And Erasmus was the teacher of the children of the Duke of Burgundy. And Erasmus decided to write a treatise of education, a book about education. And what says Erasmus is that he wrote that the children are not able to understand that it is important to learn, and he wrote that the teachers should hide school work under a player of play. This approach has been called the chocolate coloring broccoli approach by Whitman in 1999, and it means that it is expected that the bitterness of the broccoli will be hidden under the sugar of the chocolates. But what will happen for sure is that the bitterness is still there. The bitterness of the broccoli is still there, and the trick will not work anymore. Research provide little evidence about the effect on game-based learning and gamification on students' motivation. For example, a recent meta-analysis from Vutos shows that there is no evidence that game-based learning fosters student motivation. And this is confirmed by a colleague from the University of Tampere in Finland, who shows that motivation depends more on the context and especially the teacher who helps the students to play the game. This different terms are now used to describe how it's possible to influence people's behavior with games, and the term of edutainment, which means a combination of between education and entertainment. I like the term also nudge education. The term nudge refers to all smoothly influencing people without force. You can influence people smoothly without force, and most of you know, for example, this example that you have observed in the toilets, in the urinal. Now we can find some bees, and the bees is there because we know from this bee that if you put a bee in the urinal, then the results will be that the urinal will be more I miss the word in English, sorry, clean, will be clean, and this is a small thing, a small bee that influence the behavior of people. So nudge education means that some affordance may have a huge influence on learning. Sorry, can you hear the sound of the video? Can you hear the sound of the video?
No, I'm afraid not.
No, okay. No, it's perfect. I don't want to put the sound. I just try to. Okay. Sorry. I'm sure that you know this video. This video has been recorded in Stockholm, and it's a video who intend to prove that it's possible to have an influence on people's behavior. And this video comes from the decision of the mayor of Stockholm, who would like to have inhabitants more healthy. And in a way the way to make inhabitants more healthy is to push them to make more physical exercise. And then the question becomes how to influence people so that they stop to use the mechanical stair and start to use normal stair. And what happened here is that they managed to transform the stair into a piano, and the result is that more people prefer to use the piano stair, and they don't use the mechanical stair. So you can influence people with gamification, with making the situation like a game. A similar approach has been used for this game, which is called Classcraft. It's a game has been designed by one of my former students in the University of Sherbrooke in Canada. And Classcraft is a role-play game dedicated to classroom management. The students play by teams or from 3 or 4 players, and they can be healers or mages or warriors. The teacher is a game master. Depending on their classroom behavior, the students will lose or earn points. And they can use the points to buy specific powers, and some powers have a real impact in the classroom. For example, students may buy an invisibility cloak, and then in case of if he is late at class, he is protected by from the punishment of the teacher by his invisibility cloak. So it's a role-play game dedicated to classroom management, and this game intends to try to influence the behavior of the students. And the powers that the students buy can be used also to help a teammate, for example, in case if a teammate has some difficulty. And so Classcraft aims to promote relatedness and collaboration within the classroom. There are different tools that are used for Classcraft, and the teacher can use Classcraft to choose a random students, for example, to participate to a challenge. And depending on the answer of the students, his team will earn or lose points. There are many other available tools. There is, for example, a sonometer. And in case if the students are too noisy during a work group, the sonometer makes that all the students will lose points. So there are many tools in Classcraft that are used for classroom management and to influence the good behavior of the students. This is the dashboard of Classcraft, and the teacher with the game master can have an idea about the avatar of the students, the number of points that have been earned or lose. It can have information about the power that the students buy, etc., etc. So the teacher is the game master. We conducted research on the use of Classcraft, and I will go deeper into the results. But what we observe is the positive impact on students' behavior in terms of complying with the rules and engagement into learning activities. The students also said that the game was the opportunity to be responsible for their behavior, and they also said that they appreciated that the game master, the teacher, is not only involved in punishing the student because of their bad behavior, but also reward the students because of their good behavior. So the game didn't change only the behavior of the students, but also the behavior of the teacher. I would like to compare what happened in an ordinary class and what happened in a class where Classcraft is used. In terms of operation, I mean, what do the students? We can say that there is no difference, no differences between what the students are expected to do in normal class, in the class with Classcraft, because they are supposed to have a good attitude, a good behavior, adapted to the group's context. So there's no change regarding what the students are supposed to do. There is no change about the action, the reason, or the why about why the students are involved in the classroom, because both they are supposed to adopt a specific behavior, and the specific behaviors depends on the school rules or depends on the game rules. But the rules are the same, it's exactly the same. The school rules and the game rules are exactly the same. And finally, the difference is only in the meaning, lies only in the meaning of the behavior. Because the students who comply with the rules in an ordinary class want to succeed at school. They want to succeed at school, they want to be good students. But the students who complies with the rules in the game want to succeed in the game. They want to succeed. They want to earn points to buy specific balls. In other words, the game changed the meaning of the student experience in the classroom, and Goffman called this change a frame transformation. The meaning of the school is changed, and there is a frame transformation. And a frame is a set of concepts and theoretical perspective that organize the experience. So the experience of the students is changed. And as a result, the teacher should take the role of an engineer of playful frames that extend the game world to the classroom. So the role of the teacher is really important and should be the role of the game master that is able to extend the game world into the classroom. The result is that gamification and learning games should not seen as educational tricks. We should instead consider their intrinsic educational properties. And I think that there are three intrinsic educational properties for game. The first one is devolution. It means that the students will accept the responsibility for solving the problem. This is not often the case in an ordinary class. The student strategy in an ordinary class merely consists of guessing the answer of the teacher, expected by the teacher. With learning games, this strategy doesn't work anymore, and the students need to really address the problem in order to find a solution. So I think that the first intrinsic educational property is that the game fosters devolution, the appropriation of the problem by the students. The second intrinsic educational property is autonomy. Autonomy means that both the freedom that the students will have the freedom to, for example, to experience different misconception and strategy. They have freedom and they can make a mistake. But this strategy is framed by the automatic feedbacks that come from the game. And for the students, it's always possible to say, I'm right or I'm wrong. And they have the possibility to change their way of behaving and thinking. This is the case in classcraft when they change their behavior in the classroom because they lose point of all the earned points. And the last educational property is about failures and mistake. I mean that failures and mistake are of great importance for learning. However, for ordinary classes, the students try to avoid failure and mistakes because they don't want to keep a good image for the teacher. With game-based learning, failures and mistakes are just normal, and game over is not a big problem. It's always possible to restart the game and to try again. So the error in the games are de-dramatized, and it's important. It's an important educational property, I think. These ideas comes from the work from Rousseau and Astolfi. You will find it in the literature. So I think that we don't choose the proper term when it comes to introduce games or to make the situation like games in the classroom. The term gamifications means literally to create a game, but it's not about the problem is not to create a game. The problem is what I said. According to what I said about classcraft, the problem is it's not about creating a game, but about to change the meaning of the situation and to transform the experience, the frame experience. It's why I advocate for the use of the term ludicization. The suffix icizations emphasize the transformation and that concern the player and the effort that are made to make the situation playful. So the dramatization is a way to focus not on the game but on the experience of the play. So I don't think that learning games are educational tricks. I think that they have educational properties, intrinsic educational properties. So I think it's a myth. The third issue that I want to address is that I want to examine the teacher roles in game-based learning. We know that the work done by John Hattie, for example, that the teacher is extremely important for ordinary classes. However, we have very limited studies about the teacher roles for game-based learning, and this role is often neglected by students, by research students. I want to go back to Classcraft to illustrate the ideas that I will put forward, and to give you an overview of some results that came from the work of one of my PhD students, whose name is Guillaume Bonvin. The study has been conducted with secondary school classes in Switzerland and Brazil. And the purpose was not to compare the classes, but to carry out an experimentation with Classcraft in two different, very different contexts. We recorded the digital traces of students and teachers' interaction with the game. And here on the figure, each bar represents the number of interactions for one student. Each bar is for one student, and the colors represent different types of interaction. For example, blue is a loss of point, orange you earn points, and green, etc. You have different interaction. The first lesson that we learned from this study is that there is a huge variability among students in terms of engagement and strategies. For example, students 17 is extremely active and use power to help his teammates, while student 22 is not really active and uses his power only for himself. This variability is not a surprise. The game offers the students freedom and the opportunity to play as they want. But you can see on this figure that the variability is extremely important. We also collected the trace from the teachers, and we had a look to the teacher profiles. The digital traces show what the teacher did. Each bar here represents 1 week. You can read what happened during the whole school year from the left to the right. On the upper side, it's for Brazil, and down, it's for Switzerland. Each color represents, again, one type of interaction within the game. And as you can see, the colors are really different between Brazilian teachers and Swiss teachers. In particular, for the Brazilian teacher, the color orange means that the rewards that the teacher rewards the students with gold pieces with the game. Then it means that the students succeed within the game. The blue, red, and violin color of the Swiss teachers mean that they reward or punish the students depending on if they comply or not with the classroom rules. In other words, third the teacher use the same game, they perform two different classroom management. The Brazilian teacher is focused on student engagement, while Swiss teachers are focused on classroom rules. This study shows that the teacher is of great importance regarding the way the game is played by the students. So the teacher role should not be neglected. I think it's a myth if we don't take into consideration the role, the important role of the teacher, and I advocate for more research about the teacher roles for game-based learning. And this will be the last myth that I want to address. The myth is about we learn better by playing, and I want to address the issue about the supposed positive effect of game-based learning. This issue is addressed by Maud Plumet-Tassiber, another PhD student from my team. And Maud carried out a study about programming game. It's a learning game dedicated to computational thinking, to computing education. And with programming game, the students are expected to learn through programming. It's used in Switzerland in secondary class. The game consists of writing algorithms so that the character can move and meet another character. There are more than 20 levels, and they are more and more complex. The students learn what is variable or a loop, etc. And Maud managed to show that since the students manage to succeed in the game, they are not aware of that they learn something from the game. As a result, there is a risk that the knowledge of the game that the students get with the game is not transferable. In other words, the students learn how to play, but they don't learn computing. It means that something is missing for the learning scenario. And what is missing is the debriefing. I think it's really important to think about the debriefing when it comes to think about game-based learning for the students. And Mo's work emphasizes the importance of the debriefing for game-based learning. She developed a model, a 4-dimensional model of the debriefing. One dimension of the model relates to the feeling expressed by the students. The students are invited to express what they felt by playing. It might be the frustration of failure or the pleasure to succeed. This dimension helps the students to leave the game and to come back to the classroom. Another dimension is directly related to the transfer of knowledge. The students are invited to imagine how they will apply the knowledge in the future. She called this dimension generalization. And the 3 other dimensions consist of specific work carried out on the knowledge. The debriefing enabled the students to become aware of what they learned. They will be conscious that they develop specific knowledge that was necessary to address the challenge within the game. And for example, they know that they master a specific programming language. So the debriefing helps the students to distinguish what they did and what they learned. During the debriefing, the teacher name and validate the knowledge. For example, he will explain what is loop or a variable is, and he will explain, for example, that the loop is a good way to maximize algorithm, or to give or he will give the definition of a variable. So I don't think that we learn better by playing. If we come back to the question that I asked at the beginning of this presentation, I can say that again that the teacher is of great importance for game-based learning. His role consists of helping the students to be aware about what they learned and to make possible that the knowledge will be transferable. In other words, I think that the player does not learn through playing. I think that the students learn if he manage to reflect on his playful experience during the debriefing. So he don't learn from the game, but learn by reflecting on his experience on the game. So again, it's a miss. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope that my presentation will offer us the opportunity to have some questions now. I'm sorry to be not face-to-face to discuss with you, but actually I'm supposed to participate to another conference here. That's why I'm not in Switzerland. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric, for this very interesting presentation. Thank you for having us travel through time and game culture. I've taken quite a lot of notes, and the several steps you present to us. At the end, I have some questions, but I will leave the place for the audience to ask some, if they have. Otherwise, I will go ahead with anyone with questions. Yes?
So what is the bottom line of the advice for teachers in using game? How would you summarize your views at the moment, your understanding?
How would you summarize your understanding of the teacher and the games? That's right.
I think that first, the teacher should be able to make possible that the students will play. I mean, there is the student as a role with for the briefing, for the beginning of the game. Second, I think that the teacher role is important as game master. He is responsible not only about that the students will comply with the rules of the game, but that the student will stay into the narrative. I mean that the students will play the game, will accept to enter in this universe of the game. And it's not my idea. It's come from, for example, the work from Moline. And third, I think it's important that the teacher will make able that you know in French we have two words. We say connaissance and we say savoir, and it's very different. When we say connaissance, we mean that it's subjective. It's something that is situated. I mean, it's related to a situation, and it's related to an individual. But the problem is that this knowledge, this connaissance, is not transferable. If we want to transfer this connaissance, we need to transform this connaissance into savoir, which means the knowledge that is transferable and not linked to one individual. So the teacher has a role during the briefing. So my answer is briefing, keeping the students into the game, and also the debriefing.
Thank you. I think I didn't do something which was exactly doing the briefing or the debriefing of your speech. So I could do it quite quickly. So you talked to us about the travel through time, as I said, the learning games, educational tricks. And I would say that actually what I catch up was the fact that do we play to learn or do we learn to play? This is a question, and it could be come back at the end.
I just get the same question 2 hours ago from my conference. It's why I'm smiling. Yes, I think it's a good question. Of course, we have to learn how to play first. I think because we have to learn the rule of the game if we want to have a fair play for example. But I don't think that we'll learn directly from play. We think that play is an opportunity to have an experience. Sometimes a very emotive experience. We can feel a very strong affect and a very strong emotion when we play. And then, if we want to learn from this experience, we have to leave the game and to reflect about this experience. This This is, I think, something very important to understand. Each time that I ask the students after the game, what did you learn? They say, we learn to play. We play. We don't learn anything. We learn to play. But then, if you go deeper and you talk with them about their feeling, about what they did, about how they did it, so if you manage to debrief the students, then you start to make possible that they will be aware of they learn something, and that this knowledge will be transferable to another situation.
Thank you. I keep with the debriefing. So we went through the piano escalator. And we discovered that people prefer to use the piano stair instead of taking the stairs, the escalator. The classcraft, the intrinsic indicational property of games, and the explanation of the gamification and the words. And finally, the debriefing. And it seems that the debriefing seems to be very important for you as a way to relieve the whole experience.
It's a way to, again, it's a way to manage, for example, when you play a game about, in physics about forces, maybe you will be able to apply correctly the forces in a way to change the trajectory of the object. And you will learn how to apply the forces. I know many games for that. For example, Mechanica, the students, it's easy. In 1 hour, they manage to apply correctly the flat, and they change their misconception about forces. But they learn nothing about forces. I mean, they don't know that what they did, the name is forces. They don't know the definition of what is forces. But the combination of the playing experience and the explanation from the teacher helps the students to, based on this experience, to have a better understanding of what is forces. So I advocate for game-based learning, of course, but I just want to say that it's not enough. It's not enough to make people, to make students to play. We have to offer them the opportunity to reflect about this experience. And the teacher should act during the debriefing as an expert who explain why they experiment these forces and all the forces, for example, were interacting during the game. And then the students are really eager to understand, because they had this good or bad experience. Sometimes it's a bad experience, because when you play, you lose sometimes, and then you are really you want to understand, and then you start to learn something.
Thank you. Has anyone a question? To keep going. I have a few minutes. You still have a few minutes. You have another session, right? No?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I have a few minutes. I'm free until 3 p.m.
I have still one question about all your speech, which is based on the consciousness of playing. Is the consciousness of playing a key in the process of gamification? I mean, the student should be conscious to play or not, or advised that they are playing.
I think, but I don't have any research work about this issue from myself, and I read almost nothing about that. But I think that the player is always aware that he's playing. Otherwise, there is a problem. If the player doesn't understand, or that is not aware that he's playing, it means that he is not able to make the difference between the real world and the world of play, and then it's a pathology for I think in my eyes. I think that good players are really involved. They are deeply involved. There is a flow, and so on and so on. Otherwise, they are always able to say, "Okay, stop. I want to stop this game because I don't want to play this or to comply with this rule or something like that. So I think the players should be able to make the difference between the real world and play, and is always aware about that. I think it's really important, and I think also that there is an enjeu about the fact that we should carry out media education to help students to understand what is a game, and all behind games you can find ideology or ideas that are not necessarily extremely good ideas.
Would it mean that it means that students should have education on education, educated about the game to be educated?
Yes, exactly. They should be educated about games. We miss this kind of. They are educated about media, about social media, not enough. But they are almost not educated about game. And game is a really important media, because with game you can disseminate ideologies or ideas that are not necessarily good, and they should be able to reflect about the game itself, and to know, to understand, to be aware that it's a game, and the game master or the game designer decided to put this idea in the game, but I'm not happy with this idea, because I'm able to have a step behind and to see the game as something that I can analyze and study, etc., etc.
Okay, thanks a lot. Anyone has a last question? If not, I would have one last, which is on your topic about the intrinsic educational properties of games, and you talked about failure and mistake to de-dramatize. And I would ask you if you consider that de-dramatizing the failure is a good asset in a concrete life.
Sorry, it's a good asset in a
concrete life. I mean, facing for studies, for example.
Of course it is, but it's very difficult, because the teacher tried to de-dramatize failures and mistake, because they know that if you don't make failures and mistakes, you will not learn. It's important to make failures. Failures are important because it helps you to be aware that you have misconception. So until I'm not managed to be aware of my misconception, I will not learn. I think that it's a good way to act, and I keep this way of acting. And then when I manage to understand that, okay, that it doesn't work, it's a failure, so then I can start to work. However, in the real class, it's really, in the concrete class, it's not really, it's very difficult, because the students know that even if the teachers say, make failures, make mistakes, it's not a problem. They know that the image of themselves will be affected by these failures and mistakes. So they try to avoid mistakes, they try to avoid failures, and then they don't learn. But in games, it's not a problem, because the teacher disappears. The teacher is a game master, but they don't really. The player is not them. The player is their avatar, for example. And then if we have failures and mistakes, this is a fault of the avatar. So they are protected from failures and mistakes.
Thanks a lot, Eric Sanchez. We are reaching the end
of
our.
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
No, I said thank you very much.
Thanks to you.